Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is lose. Let's take a look at some of the definitions of this verb. The first way you might hear lose used is to mean to fail to win a game or contest. So this particular verb was chosen today because of its connection to sports, athletics, and the ongoing Olympics. You might hear about a team or person failing to win. So you can think of lose as sort of the opposite of win. A second way we use the verb lose, though, is to mean to become unable to find someone or something. Think most people have had an experience of feeling as though they have been unable to find keys. Maybe it's their house key, a car key, something, but not knowing where it is. It connects to this second meaning of the verb. A third way you might hear lose used is to mean to suffer the death of a loved one or the end of a relationship. So you might hear people say they have lost their mother, their father, etc. And most commonly, it's used to talk about the death of a loved one. A fourth way you might hear lose used is to mean to decrease one's body weight. Um, you'll again see commercials telling you about how to lose weight. So that idea of decreasing. A fifth way the verb lose gets used is to mean to earn less money than one is spending or that one has spent. Sometimes you'll hear this in business. You might hear that a company is losing money. So they're not selling as much as they are spending. A sixth way to use the verb lose is to mean to waste or to fail to take advantage of an opportunity. This can happen in school, in work, in your personal life, where someone might express the idea they lost the chance to do something. You should know that lose is an irregular verb. To make the progressive tense or the progressive form, you need to drop the E and then add ing to form losing. The past tense and participle forms of this verb have a completely different spelling. It's L-O-S-T when we pronounce it lost. I actually used this participle form when I was talking about the third definition of suffering the death of a loved one. Now, let's take a moment to look at some phrasal verbs with lose. The first one you might hear is to lose oneself in something. And so the thing to note here is between lose and the preposition in, you're going to see a reflexive pronoun. So those are words like myself, yourself, himself, herself, etc. Okay? This particular phrasal verb means that someone's mind is so focused on a particular thing that they kind of don't know what's going on around them. Our definition here says oblivious, so kind of unaware, not paying attention to things that are happening at the same time around them. Let's look at an example of this in a sentence that maybe will help us understand the definition. She can lose herself in a book, right? So if we can imagine someone who's reading, right? Maybe someone's trying to talk to them. They don't hear it, right? They're so focused very intently on that book. Maybe they have a meeting or an appointment of some kind. They forget about it because they are so focused on that particular book. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to lose out on. This means that someone is missing an opportunity or not having something advantageous happen for them. This really kind of connects back to that sixth definition we looked at a few minutes ago. An example of this could be the class of 2020 lost out on having a prom and graduation ceremony with family and friends. So I know this happened to a number of high school seniors during 2020 and college seniors to a certain extent as well. Due to the pandemic, it wasn't safe to have large, sort of normal gatherings to celebrate these milestones. So they missed the opportunity to celebrate their accomplishments. The last phrasal verb we'll look at is to lose out to. And this also means kind of related here to be less successful. Let's take a look at an example here. Job applicants without high school diplomas often lose out to those who have diplomas. So what this is saying is if we imagine two people applying for a job, one person does not have their high school diploma or a high school equivalency. The other does. That other person is likely going to get the job, or more likely going to get the job. Now, let's do a little review of questions. In just a moment, we are going to make some more information or WH questions with our verb of the day. And we're going to do that in the simple past tense. But before we do that, I thought it's good for us to look at the structure of how we make those questions. So hopefully my chart here will help us see all the pieces we need to make this type of question. So the first thing we want to do is start with a question word. Then we'll use did. This is our past tense form of do. Then you'll have a subject and then a base verb. Okay, so we've got, I've got a few examples here. You're welcome to pause the video and kind of create your own question. Sometimes after the base verb, there are additional words or phrases to help give context to the question that's being asked, but it doesn't have to be. Kind of depends on what you're asking about. So I'm going to do one here, and I'm going to pick the question word what. Okay, then I would come here. I'm going to use did, and maybe I'll use the subject they today and the base verb buy. What did they buy? Okay, so that's our general structure. And I think now we're ready to practice making these questions in the simple past tense. So if you want to ask a question about the location, the place where something happened, in this case, since we're talking about past tense, use the question word where. Here's an example. Where did you lose your car keys? Right? So going back to that second definition of being unable to find something. So we have our question word where, did, our subject is you, and then you can see the base verb. Where did you lose your car keys? Right? At home, at work, right? Those could be some of the possible answers. Maybe out at a soccer field. If we want to ask a question about time, this can be like a time on a clock, right? Noon, 3 p.m., etc. Could be referencing a date as well, July 29th as an example. To do this, you should use the question word when. And you'll see this exact same structure we've been talking about. When did she lose her grandmother? So this is asking about when did someone pass away? Just another way to say that. If we can ask questions about manner, the way in which something was done. So to do that, we're going to use the question word how. And again, follow that same structure. How did your team lose the game? Right? Did you make a lot of mistakes? Maybe the other team was just much better. Many times we ask questions to understand the reason that something happened. For that, we'll use the question word why. Why did the company lose money last year? Why? And again, this would be they spent more than they made, right? Maybe it was due to the pandemic. Final question that follows this structure we've been looking at is a determiner. So we're asking about a thing, okay? For that, again, same structure, we're going to use the question word what. What did they lose, right? Was it car keys? Was it a book, a paper? right? We're asking about the object or thing there. Now, we have two more types of WH questions that you may hear from others. Their structure is just a little bit different, and so that's why I've kind of put a little line between this. These aren't following our exact process. The first one is another determiner. So we can use the word which and then provide a noun or phrase to help someone kind of have choices when they're giving their answer, right? Let's look at the example here. So, which event, an event is kind of what we're picking from, did she lose? So then we go back to our structure there. So we might ask this question, an athlete who's competing in swimming or track and field, for example, may be competing in several events. So we want to know which distance or which particular race did she lose. The last type of question is a question about the subject, the person who is responsible for the action. And here our structure's actually quite different. So we are going to use the question word who to ask about a person, okay? But then we are using the past tense form of the verb. So notice with all the other ones, we were using the base form of the verb, okay? So our structure here, we use who and then the past tense form of the verb. Who lost the game, right? So this might be either referencing a person or a team, depending on the sport. Now, let's spend just a couple more minutes looking at words that are related to our verb lose. The first word is loss. This is a noun. Just like our verb, it can have a number of different meanings. One way to use the noun loss is to refer to a failure to gain, win, obtain something, or utilize something. Okay? An example of this could be the team has 4 losses this season, right? So 4 times they failed to win. A second way to use the noun loss is to refer to a decrease in amount, magnitude, value, or degree. An example of that could be there was a large loss in altitude. We might be referring here to a plane and how high up either it was or wasn't. A third way to use the noun loss would be to mean the act of being unable to keep or maintain something. Sometimes we'll hear this in medicine, like the question, was there much blood loss? So perhaps someone was injured and they were bleeding a great deal. A fourth way to use the noun loss is to refer to the absence of a capability or a function. And again, sometimes we'll see this with medical conditions and things. An example of this, she's been suffering from appetite loss. So this person just isn't hungry, doesn't feel the need to eat. So they have this absence of a feeling of hunger. Another related word is the noun loser, right? This kind of has a rather negative meaning to it. It's a person or thing that loses frequently. Might also be referring to a person who is unable to succeed. So sometimes this word can be used in a really hurtful way by calling a person a loser, right? And so we're saying like this person is never going to be able to succeed. A slightly different way to use this noun is kind of back to that the first part there, something that loses frequently. Our example sentence here, he always seems to root for losers. Another way to say that, cheer for. So maybe all of his favorite teams or athletes just aren't very good and they lose quite frequently. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is a bit of slang, and it's the phrase lose it. And generally, when people use this, they're meaning that they are not really in control of their own emotions. And when many people hear this, they automatically think, oh, it must be like an anger or negative. But sometimes it could be even laughing. Someone tells you just the funniest thing, and you start laughing, and you can't stop. So um, that's one of many ways to use this, right? So it could be someone being very angry at something that happened, could be hearing really sad news, makes you cry, and you're just not able to stop. So an example of this in a sentence could be, after reminding her children to pick up her toys for the fourth time, she lost it. So we can imagine maybe this mother being very frustrated, very angry. Um, and so we don't know exactly what she did, but there was probably some yelling involved. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.